All right. I don't know. My hair is messed up. All right. So welcome to day 4 of the challenge. 180 days challenge. You forgive me. Man, I had my finals today. My last finals for this semester. Oof, it's not been easy. But I really do not want to compromise this challenge for finals. Okay, so yeah, that's true. But I'm looking very, very man, bro. It's fine. So this one is probably going to be a little bit short. I'm not gonna lie. Like as you can tell, I've not been able to still fix the external what's it called external streaming software where you guys can follow along while I code. Um, but definitely now that I'm done with finals, that would be one of the next things on my mind, right? Um, yeah, but thank you. So today we advanced into the CSS. We started CSS I think 2 days ago, and we're advancing. We didn't spend so much time on HTML because actually HTML doesn't have problem. It doesn't have a problem. You just need to understand it in certain ways, but it's not that deep, you know. But CSS can drive you crazy, especially if you're not a design guy. If you don't like design, if you don't like making things look beautiful, CSS can frustrate you, can literally frustrate you. So, but luckily for me, I'm a design guy. So, if you remember the story in the very, very first video, not the day one video, like the very first video, I talked about my background in graphic design before pivoting to programming. And that's very important for me because it's oh my god, it literally is influencing why I like front end, you know. CSS is crazy, oh. Like you can use it to do some really cool stuff, some crazy animations, maybe combining it with JavaScript. um but yeah, it still has to do with making things look beautiful and working fine and things like that. So I'm very much interested in those. um yep. Yeah. Um so yeah, we continue CSS today, and I'll kind of just go over my notes. Like I said, the video might be shorter than normal, and again, let me say today I did not meet my target. But I still did something though. I still did something. um Remember, I was coming from like with a backlog from yesterday. So but now that I'm done with finals, I'll be able to balance well, like really well. I really need to plan how I'm going to push this thing through next semester because man, oh man, as well. So I'll be going right through my notes, and the first thing I put down is an anchor element is different from the pseudo class anchor colon link. I I sincerely apologize, guys. You're supposed to be seeing these things so that you just know what I'm saying. But here I'm speaking big grammar, and there's nothing you are probably understanding. Um, but what that means basically is, an anchor tag in HTML, right? The normal tag you used to um, write a link in HTML. Now, when you're styling it, you are supposed to style it with the pseudo class anchor colon link. Why is that? If you style it with just anchor, it would work. The styling would take effect. Um, but the thing is, it doesn't like a real link, right? Has a href attribute, and is that href attribute that qualifies certain anchors when you add the link pseudo class to it. So if it did not have a href attribute initially, it is not going to be qualified when you add the pseudo class um, colon link, right? So it can, I don't know if it has advantage with like semantics, like telling the browser what this is actually, but you know, that's just like the real difference. And then you'd also, maybe for the sake of uniformity too, you'd also style the link with other pseudo class like active. You know how you have colon link, we have colon active, we have colon hover, we have colon um, visited. Have you ever clicked a link on a web page and you come back and the link has changed color to like purple from blue? Maybe on Google, that's what the visited is. So they literally styled it that when it's visited, when it has been visited, it changes color. But sometimes it can have the same styling as the normal state of the anchor element, which is the colon link state. Um, the second, okay, this one looks like it's an incomplete note. Another very important thing we talked about is CSS. How do I explain this? But it's basically like when CSS rows or declarations clash, which one is CSS going to take? So if I have a paragraph element that I've given a class called sentence, and I give it an ID called um, let's say sentence again, because it is fine for a single HTML element to contain the same word for its class and ID. So if I have this paragraph element and I style it with the paragraph element with the P element, and I also select it with the sentence class, and I also select it with the sentence ID, I give three of them different colors. Which one will take effect? That's what it's talking about. I don't know what it's called, but it's like basically just think about it like CSS selectors clashing. There's a fancy name for it, but like I don't see. Maybe let me see if I'm gonna see it. Um, thank you. It's just simply called conflict conflict between selectors. That's what it's called. So which of them is gonna be respected by CSS, right? So here's the simple rule. There is a hierarchy, right? My instructor said it's a little bit more complicated than that in real life, but this would be enough for me to figure out um, how my CSS should work in this course. So there's a hierarchy. So it starts from the most, the one with the highest priority, the one that CSS would respect, to the one that with the least priority if there's a conflict between selectors. So the highest one is the important keyword. So CSS has an important keyword. Literally, it's called important. You just have to have the exclamation mark before the I. The second one following is an inline styling. Remember we talked about inline CSS, internal CSS, and external CSS. The third one is the ID. The fourth one is the class or pseudo class. The fifth one is the element selector, and the last one is the universal selector. So this is probably the first time I'm mentioning the universal selector, but universal selector is simply an asterisk. It basically selects all elements um, on a page, like all elements one by one. It just selects them. If you give a universal selector certain CSS declarations, it affects every single element on the HTML page. So that's that. Now let's assume that we are now in a more difficult situation where we have three classes clashing. So which one will CSS pick? Um, CSS is going to go with the last one. With the last one. The next thing I put here is I'll just literally read it. It says a class of one element can, okay, I've said that here. So a class of one element can have the same name as the ID of that same element, and that is absolutely fine. Another thing I'm going to read out just as I wrote it is, okay, not exactly as I wrote it, is we can even have multiple classes on a single HTML element, and that's clean too. Um, and then we talked about something called inheritance. Inheritance is basically inheritance. The DOM renders HTML elements like a tree. If you know family tree in social studies in primary school, you see your father and your mother, and then you see all your siblings and yourself down, like coming from your father and mother. So that's how it is in HTML too. So HTML has child elements, and we talked about that yesterday when we were selecting the pseudo class of nth child, right, or first child, last child, or nth of type. Or yes, nth of type. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, nth of type. So those are those are child elements, right? So when you give a parent element CSS declarations, the child elements inherit those CSS declarations, especially when predominantly these CSS properties that are inherited mostly have to do with text. So it's either, obviously this is not a comprehensive or exhaustive list. It Font family, font size, font weight, font style. Let me try to say what each of them does, or each of them does. So let's say font family is basically saying the family of of the of the oh my god, the type font. That's the font, the typography. Yeah, so you can use unique fonts, but it's not just easy to use unique font, because you cannot just use any font you have on your computer, because I may not have that font on my computer. And when you upload your website on a server, I would have problem rendering the exact same font that you have used. So what developers do most of the time is they use fonts that are universally um, as accepted by browsers. So I think there are five of them. The first one is serif. The second one is sans serif. The third one is, I think, monospace. The fourth one is I think cursive, and the fifth one is, it's not italics, but there's a fifth one. I've forgotten. So yeah, that's what font family is about. Then font size, basically the size of the font, right? Um, then we have font weight, whether it's bold, light, semi bold. Then font style. Font style is actually whether it's going to be italics or not. I think so. I think so. Let me confirm with ChatGPT. Hey chat. Hey chat.
Hey there, how's it going? Anything I can help you with today?
Yeah, so I wanted to confirm from you what font style CSS property does.
Absolutely. The font style property in CSS is used to set the style of the font. The most common values are normal, italic, and oblique. Basically, it lets you make text italic or oblique if you want to emphasize it.
What's oblique?
So, oblique is kind of similar to italic, but it can be a bit less slanted and not necessarily designed by the font itself. Italic is usually a specific style that the font designer created, whereas oblique just slants the text. So, they're quite similar, but the main difference is how they're rendered.
Yeah, so I was correct. So color is the color of the text. Line height is the spacing between, generally is the spacing between the lines. Letter spacing too, spacing between letters in a sentence. Text align, just like Microsoft Word, you can do center, left, right. But I know for center, I don't know if they are left or they are right. Then text transform. Text transform. I think text transform has to do with capitalize, uppercase, lowercase. Text shadow is self-explanatory, and then list style. So these are mostly text-based CSS properties that can be, or that are usually inherited by the child elements or of HTML parent elements. So yeah, this was the notes I took down, and then we had some exercise. I coded it up, um, and we were about to enter the box model before I had to make the video before it gets to midnight. So that's it for today, guys. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. Don't worry, tomorrow I'm going to push really hard so that I would cover for the deficit for today, and then cover for tomorrow's debt too. If that makes sense. Well, regardless, see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.